So let me just return to this in the alphabets, and let's check out the capital letters. Now, some of the capital letters are similar to our letters in the English alphabet, which is a lot of help, okay? Now, the first letter, alpha, as you can see, under the capital column, alpha is equal to our A, if you want to put it like that, and it looks exactly like an A when it is capitalized, okay? Now, let me tell you something about the alpha, okay, because you have different pronunciations. You're going to be reading in this book about rough breathing and soft breathing, okay, and you have markers for that are above the alpha that will designate it as rough breathing or soft breathing. Now, what do you mean, Angelo, by rough breathing and soft breathing and all this stuff? Okay, well, what I mean is that I'll give you an example. Our K, which can be translated beginning when it's talking about time and a stream and things like that, and is correctly translated ruler when you're talking about persons, that will have a soft breathing indicator above the alpha, okay? It looks almost like an apostrophe. So that'll be above, that is not called an apostrophe, Elysian, but we're going to come to that later. But I'm just telling you what it looks like, and it's going to be above the alpha. And when you see that, you sound out the alpha like ah. Okay, now if it had a rough breathing indicator, okay, then you're going to be sounding off the alpha just like you sounded off in the Greek word harmatia, which means sin. You just caught me there saying ha with an H. That is because it is rough breathing. Okay, so you have hamartia, which means sin, and then that's with a rough breathing. And then you have the absence of aspiration in RK, okay? You have no rough breathing there. That's why you just say RK and not HARK, okay? All right. So anyway, that's very important. Of course, you see in Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, you see a few names there. You have Jesus' name in Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. You have Abraham there. And the capital version of A is attached to that name because all names are capitalized. Okay, so let's go to the beta. The beta is kind of easy because it looks like a capital B when the Greek beta is capitalized. Okay, and so you're going to see it capitalized when you're talking about biblios, when you're talking about a book. Okay, and that also appears in Matthew 1:1. Okay, so that's going to be capitalized. Okay, so that's a beta. Okay, and as you can see nearby, that's a small version of the letter beta. It looks like a B also. Now this one is kind of tricky. Gamma. Okay, gamma looks like an incomplete capital F. It doesn't function like that though. It has a G sound. Okay, like get or girl. It's actually the capital version of it. And as you can see besides it, that the gamma when it is small, okay, looks like a Y, like yellow or Yankee or yo-yo. Okay, so let's stay with the capital version first. Okay, so whenever you see something like this, okay, like I call it an incomplete capital F to help you guys, you're going to sound it off like G, okay? And you see that in the letter to the Galatian church, okay, you're going to see that letter capitalized like that. Or Galilee, you're going to see that as well, okay? Or genesis, which is the Greek word for Genesis, and it means beginning, and it means also birth too. So you're going to see that there, okay? Now, so if you see an incomplete capital F, you could sound it off as G, like get, girl, and things like that. Now this one is very, very tricky. Okay, the delta, it looks like a triangle. Now that's equal to our capital D, okay, meaning the sound. So you sound it off when you see a triangle, you're going to see it in David's name, okay, Dawid, And you'll also see that in chapter 1 of Matthew's Gospel when you're talking about the genealogy. And so when it looks like a pyramid or it looks like a triangle. It's the only letter that looks like that in the 24 letters of the Greek alphabet, so you're going to have no problem, okay? You sound it off like duh, like David or Donald or Dorothy, okay? When you see a triangle. So that's the delta, okay? Now, thank God that the small version, the small letter delta looks like a D. It's just tilted a little bit to the left. Now, let's go to the epsilon. Epsilon looks like a capital E when it is capitalized, so that's very easy. And it looks a little bit like an E as well when it is small. Now, zeta looks like a Z when it is capitalized, so that is very good, okay? That's very helpful. Now, eta is tricky because it looks like an H and it doesn't act like an H and is not an H. So when you see that, it has the sound A, okay, at times, okay. So so the thing is that when you see the capital eta, okay, you pronounce it as A. One small thought about the eta, when it is with a rough breathing, it is pronounced hey, hey, with a rough breathing. Okay, and now let's go to the theta. The theta looks like a 0 or an O with a line right straight through it. Now that is very important. That's a very important letter. And it's translated TH in manuals. And that is very important because that's the first letter for the word for God, theos, okay? All right, so that's very important. And the small letter is similar to it, but it looks like a little capsule, you know, tilted to the right a little bit. Now, staying with the capital version of this is very important to understand that that is the first letter for the name for God, theos. And not only the name for God, you have the goddess Diana, I believe it's in chapter 19, that it talks about her, and she's a thea. Okay, she's a thea, she's a goddess. Okay, it has the alpha in the end of that, thea. Instead of theos, you have a thea. Now, also, Satan is called the god of this age, or god of this world. So he's also called Theos in the secondary sense, of course. You know, he's a god, you know. So he's also called that. Now we go to iota. And iota looks like a capital I, and it's equal to our I. And that's very important because that capital letter is going to be found for the first letter of Jesus in Greek, Iesus. His name is spelled out iota, eta, okay, sigma, omicron, upsilon, sigma. Okay, so iota is equal to our I, and that helps us out because it looks like an I anyway. Now, of course, you have kappa. And kappa is equal to our K, and it looks like a K, so that's kind of cool. That's kind of easy. Now this one is a little tricky. It's lambda is equal to our L, and it looks like an incomplete capital A. Now you're going to see that for the first letter for Luke, okay, when you go to Luke's Gospel. So if you go to Luke's Gospel and you see like an incomplete capital A, well, you sound it off la, like Larry. Okay, now, of course, mu is kind of easy because it's equal to our M, and it looks like an M when it's capitalized. Now the next letter is nu, like in Nancy, and that looks like a N, so that's kind of easy, okay? Let's go back to the mu. That's going to be the first letter when it's capitalized for Mary's name, okay? Now you have Kyky. And Kyky is very strange. It looks like a snake when it is not capitalized, and it's even stranger when it is capitalized. It looks like a stack of books. You say Kyky there, okay? When you have an epsilon and a Kyky, then you sound it off X, like that. For example, the last Greek word in John's Gospel, chapter 1, verse 18, exegesato, means to declare or to make known, to explain. Okay? And exegesis comes out of that Greek word. Okay? So that's kasi. Okay? Then you have Omicron, which is equal to our O. And that's kind of easy. Then you have P, which looks like a stool, is equal to our P. I call it a little stool to help people out. The capital P and the small p look like stools to me. So you're going to see that in Paul's first letter. And you're going to see that for Peter's first letter, Petros, okay? And you're going to see that there. Then you have the rho. It looks like a capital P and it looks like a small p when it's the small version of it, a letter, but it's not sound p like potatoes or Peter or anything else like that. It's the rho is equal to our R, like Roof or Ralph or Randy, okay? The next letter is a sigma and it looks like a capital E almost, doesn't it? But it's a sigma, so you sound it off like that, you know. So it's equal to our S, and thank God the small letters of sigma looks like a script S, and the other one is called the final sigma. Okay, so the small letters, they look like S's anyway. And let's go on. So the tau looks like a capital T, so that's easy. And then you have upsilon. It looks like a Y, but it's equal to our U. Is an upsilon, okay? So it's equal to our U. Then you have a phi, and I call it a cat's eye. You know, you're gonna see that in the letter to the Philippian church. Okay, the letter to the Philippians. That's the first letter. And that's just the deal. And then the next letter looks like an X, but is a key. And that's the first letter in the name for Christ, Christos. Okay, so that's a very important letter, of course, you know. And then you have C. It looks like an anchor, but it's a C. And that's just the deal. And then you have omega. Last but not least, you have omega. That's a very important letter. Because you see the alpha and the omega is mentioned in verse 8 of chapter 1 of Revelation, and also Revelation chapter 21 verse 6 and 22 verse 13. So that's a very important letter, of course. And that rounds up the letters, and I hope you enjoyed the study. God bless you. Bye-bye.